And we welcome you back into Dodger Poke Report, where tonight we have a very special guest as we begin our top 30 prospects. And that guest, obviously, as you see on your right, is Carson Taylor, a catcher in the Dodgers organization who has really taken off and spent this last year in high A ball at Great Lakes with the Loons. So, Carson, I want to thank you so much for coming in with Dodger Poke Report.
Definitely, man. It's my pleasure. Glad to be here.
Well, let's go all the way back to the start. And you have a really cool story because I know basically from the time that you can remember, becoming a major leaguer was a goal of yours. You know, you sit around in elementary school and your teacher asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you say, well, a major league baseball player. And I'm sure, your teacher's like, okay, well, that's a good goal. But that literally was your goal your entire life, wasn't it?
It was, man. Ever since I picked up a baseball, that's been the dream for me, at least, is to play professional baseball. So.
And I know you've had a lot of influences that have helped you along the way. We're going to unwind some of this as we go. I know your dad has been huge for you. You have a close-knit family. I know he taught you a lot of neat little things when you were a young kid that kind of helped you be a very consistent baseball player and learn how to just kind of attack the process every day. So take us through all the influences that you had as a kid growing up loving baseball.
Definitely, man. I mean, obviously, family is huge for me. Very tight-knit family, like you mentioned. Mom, dad, sister, and then myself. Ever since I picked up baseball, dad's kind of been, obviously the most hands-on of all of us, with me. But I mean, he was the one that really pushed me towards switch hitting when I was younger. He's been kind of the one that's, everybody in the family's been on the ride with me, but he's obviously been the one that's been kind of on the ride the most with me, kind of up and down. There's not like proper words that
Sure.
I could give to be able to describe kind of what he has meant to me, what my entire family's meant to me during this. I mean, just the amount of support and love and kind of just them giving me stability constantly, while I'm going through this has been huge. To this day, I still hit BP off my dad from time to time if I'm struggling hitting or, just if I just want to relax and kind of just enjoy what's going on there. He's been huge from the standpoint of he, taught me kind of how to just enjoy what I'm doing, just enjoy the process, enjoy, the ups and the downs that come with it and kind of just, go with the flow, kind of go with what the world gives you while you're doing it and,
Sure.
take what you earn basically.
Well, and baseball being a game that is such a grind and it is every day. And, even as much as you love the game and nobody loves the game more than Carson Taylor. I mean, I can tell you, you would play this game. It's what you would choose to do every day of your life. It's what you've chosen to do. But even having said that, just that process of learning how to work at it every day and how to approach, how to become, a professional every day. That's something that was very valuable to you. And you had great mentors. You talked about your dad. You decided to go to Virginia Tech after a very successful high school career, play for Coach Sheff. So take us through the decision to go to Virginia Tech and your career there and how that went for you.
Yeah. So, Tech for me ended up being a no-brainer as soon as I visited it. As soon as I got on campus, basically, I got to talk with a lot of the coaches. I got to talk with Coach Sheff, and I absolutely loved the school. First and foremost, obviously, I loved the coaches. I loved what they were building in Tech, and then I'm not gonna lie, it provided me a good opportunity to play right away. So for me, that was also another big one. But just in general, man, I had such a great experience there. It's such a great place. And when one of their big things is this is home basically, and they're not lying when I say that.
Sure.
But with Sheff and Coach Elbin, who's my hitting coach, Coach Fecto, who's my pitching coach, Coach Tyler Hansen, who did catching and everything like that. I loved every single one of those guys that I got to work with on a daily basis. But Sheff's probably the big one for me. He's like a second dad to me, basically. He taught me what it was like to handle myself like a pro. He taught me kind of just, he helped guide me through the wild experiences of college baseball. And, just kind of what he's helped me more so as, as a human being, also as a baseball player has been huge.
Looking back on it, of course, you broke your hamate bone as a freshman, worked very hard. If you've never been around somebody that has broke their hamate bone, if you haven't done it yourself, when you can't grip a bat and you're trying to hit 95 miles an hour, that's a pretty difficult thing to do. So you break your hamate bone about 3/4 of the way through your freshman season. You recover from that, and then goodness gracious, I mean, you don't do yourself any favors. You go to the best summer league there possibly is and try to recover there, the Cape Cod League. And I know that was a great experience for you as far as all the things you learned there. So take us through that freshman year, the broken hamate bone, and then your experience in the Cape Cod.
So, I mean, my freshman year, numbers wise, was pretty good. I mean, obviously there were goals that I didn't get to reach just because I didn't make it all the way through healthy. I mean, that was probably the thing that hurt the most. Was I'd never really been a kid that had struggled with injuries up until then, and that was one of those seasons where it was kind of just in and out of the lineup, basically trying to get over, you know, injuries here and there. Then obviously at the end of the year, the hamate bone hurt because I wanted to play, and we ended up coming real close to making the tournament, and ended up falling short just because we ran out of people basically because of injuries and stuff like that, which kind of hurt. But I mean, yeah, the process itself for recovering from that, I mean, it's obviously the surgery itself's not too terrible to go through. I mean, it's a pretty standard process, and it's a pretty common injury for a baseball player. I mean, the recovery process is your normal 6 to 8 weeks. It's just kind of like you said, it's a little uncomfortable to start hitting again, with the scar where it is, and it takes some time kind of to get used to what you're doing again. And yeah, it wasn't going up to the Cape, obviously. Looking back at it, was not necessarily the best decision in terms of how I played.
That's why I said, goodness gracious.
Yeah, I did not do myself any favors doing that. I mean, I went up there coming off of 1 round of BP and decided I was going to go up there and try it. I missed 3 months and then went up there and tried to play in the Cape. So first about 14 at bats weren't
oh
great.
my goodness.
Outside of that, no, but I mean, it did teach me a lot while I was up there. Cause I mean, if I'm being honest with you, I really needed an experience like that where I kind of got, for lack of a better term, got punched in the mouth basically by the sport of baseball. Cause I mean, I'd been blessed.
Like everybody does at some point, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've been blessed enough to be successful at pretty much any level I played at that point. So just to have a couple of weeks like that where I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm struggling that badly that, even injury, notwithstanding, it was one of those experiences where, I mean, I didn't like that. So
sure.
it kind of forced me it really forced me to buckle down on kind of what I wanted to focus on going into the season the next year, basically.
Yeah, obviously you took a great perspective away from that experience. Did it take you quite a while to actually have that perspective, or did that pretty much sink in right away? Because I know when you came back in 2020 for your sophomore year, you were absolutely lights out. So it seemed like you kind of took that perspective right away.
Yeah, I mean, it hit me basically right as that Cape season ended. Because I kind of it all started clicking kind of the last week I was there, basically a little bit. It was a little bit of I got back, I got my legs back under me playing again, and I got comfortable with at least the hitting portion of it. And then for me, the big thing was just that in itself kind of fueled work in the off season for me and the way I went about it, which ended up giving me a ton of confidence going into the year. With kind of where I felt I was at and everything like that. So I think that was kind of just, it basically snowballed on itself into me putting it in the right way and kind of it all just clicking when I got there.
It certainly clicked, and I'm going to read this off, and I hope you don't mind me looking over to my right to get all this right. But what a sophomore campaign you had. Although it was a shortened season, you had the most putouts ever at Virginia Tech in a single game. You had the best ever fielding percentage as a catcher in the school's history for a season, most assists by a catcher in a single game. You were a 3rd-team All-American, Buster Posey Catcher of the Year watch list. But you talk about things clicking as a sophomore. It certainly did that. And I'm sure that was a whole lot of fun for you, getting to play for guys like Coach Shep that you talked about that were so important to you, and getting to perform like that. That had to have been a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, it was great. It was such a great, for me, that was kind of one of the big culminations for me, was that kind of work process and everything like that. Kind of just getting to see it all unfold on the field and everything like that. And the fun portion of, I get to see all that, get to see the success I'm having and everything like that. It was kind of just a big confidence builder here and there. And I mean, it also helped that, I had a really talented team around me and everything like that. So it helped, with that we were doing well. I mean, obviously it stinks that we only got 16 games basically, but just the fact that, I mean, the team was doing well and I got to do well and kind of put, I felt my best foot forward basically that year.
I love the fact that of all the success you've had, the first thing that comes out of your mouth every time that you've said it, you've said team, and then you've said myself second. So, that's kind of the exact culture that the Dodgers build. They like to have people that are good people first, and then good baseball players second. So you're going to be a perfect fit for this organization as far as that goes. Would you agree with that?
I mean, I certainly hope so, man. I love the org, man. I've had so much fun being this org so far, so I'm excited to see where this goes.
The instruction's pretty good, isn't it? I mean, the way that they develop their players is second to none, isn't it?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Best,
yeah.
I think it's best in the world, honestly.
Yeah. So kind of an interesting situation for you. You have the incredible sophomore year in 2020. And then, that draft, that's the COVID year. And then the draft is shortened to 5 rounds. So, for college guys like you, that's a stressful situation because, I mean, you're talking about not very many jobs to be had out there, right? But being in the situation you're in a great position at Virginia Tech. You could come back for 2 more years. So, you had some leverage there. You had a position to go if you didn't get drafted in the first 5 rounds, but then you did get drafted. So take me through the just kind of the emotions of, well, I love it here at Tech, the stress of knowing it's only 5 rounds, but then whenever you get drafted, the decision to actually go with the Dodgers instead of coming back.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, obviously it was a little disheartening at first to kind of hear that 5-round announcement, basically. Obviously, I mean, at the least we thought it was going to be 20.
Yeah,
for a long time, basically until they said, all right, it's going to be 5. That's what you guys got. So that, for me, at least put it a little up in the air just because I hadn't had like as much, I kind of don't know really how to describe it, but like more so like, I guess, playing time compared to a lot of the other guys that were eligible to be picked.
Sure.
I mean, for me, it was stressful from the aspect of, I mean, I'm sure you could ask anybody in our draft class, but just the amount, like the range that that I was given all over. It was anywhere from like, it was, I mean, you're either getting picked or not, basically. That's the best way they could describe it to me. So, I mean, that obviously didn't help it. The night, the night of the draft was probably the quietest our house has ever been.
Oh, really?
I mean, it was one of those, like, you're that close to your dream kind of deals until I got picked. I mean, to say you could cut the tension with a knife is an understatement until I got picked, basically. But, I mean, for me, I knew I had a good fallback option if, for me, I had a lot of leverage going into that, basically, which was, I was really young compared to the other guys that were in the draft. And, obviously I knew I had a spot if I came back. And then obviously I got lucky enough to be drafted by the Dodgers. And for me, it was a pretty easy decision for me just because I wanted to get started on my pro career. So, knowing that I was with a great organization and everything like that just made it that much easier. But I mean, for me, if I got picked, I was going, basically.
Yeah. Awesome. And that begins your professional career. And, I have not had the opportunity to ask somebody like you, a 2020 draft pick. The minor league season gets canceled in 2020. You just get drafted. Obviously, you're not going to be a major leaguer straight out of college baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So what in the world does a guy like you do for the rest of 2020 right after getting drafted when the minor league season gets shut down?
Well, I mean, for me, they sent me out to the alt site after I signed, and I got a month out there, which was awesome, just to be around a lot of guys like that, and be around a lot of the top prospects in the org, and be around a lot of really good baseball players that have a ton of experience and all this stuff is huge. After that, I mean, I got sent to the Instructional League, so I was out there the whole time, and that was a little more extended. That was where I kind of got at least introduced to the game action, not necessarily what it would actually be during a season, but a pretty good representation of what it was like while I was out there, which that was big because that was effectively my short season, basically, was the Instructional League. So I kind of got a lot of the growing pains out of there. Not all going into the season, but most of them I got out there. And then kind of after that, it was just, going to a facility and working, man, just kind of just sending video when I could and That was about all we had.
Wow. And 2021, this last season, you spent it in high A, Great Lakes, and you had a really good season for them. And then I know you just got through finishing about a month ago the Arizona Fall League. So, you kind of got to catch up on some time. You had your instructs after your 2021 season in high A Great Lakes. Then after instructs, you got lucky enough to get invited to play in the Arizona Fall League. So do you feel like you got to kind of catch up on some time this year?
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, this was definitely the most games I've ever played. I mean, by by a lot, but no, I mean, I think it definitely made up for a lot of the time missed. I think just getting this year kind of under my belt, like the first full pro one, basically, was awesome. I mean, just getting to go through the whole Great Lakes season was great. I think the biggest thing for me was staying healthy the whole year was huge for me. Just getting to play a whole year and prove that, at least to myself and the other people that were looking, that I could stay healthy and produce a whole year was awesome. Then I got to get some pretty good work in instructs, and then I got lucky, man. The fall league was amazing.
That is a great experience. And not only, did you get the experience for yourself, but you also got to reunite with guys like James Altman. And then you got to play with guys like Bobby Miller and Landon Knack and guys that you're going to be playing with for a long time in this organization. So that had to be cool too, didn't it?
Yeah, it was awesome, man. I mean, I love James. I love them all, honestly. But, funny enough, I mean, I know Landon really well, actually.
Mm-hmm.
He and I played against each other, I think, 3 times in college. So we got to meet each other there, and then we have the same agent, so we work out in the same place all the time. So it's kind of fun. But yeah, man, I mean, just being around all those guys was great. Just getting to know, some of the guys that I might not have known as well.
I got to say, I'm jealous. We've talked about all the instruction you've had throughout the years, and you've had awesome instruction, starting with your dad, as we talked about earlier. But a switch hitter, and so somebody taught you how to be a switch hitter, and then not only that, somebody taught you how to use all fields. I mean, when you look at the way that you hit this year in 2021, 38% pull percentage, 36% oppo percentage. So you have some incredible as far as splits as far as that goes. So somebody got in with you and not only made you a switch hitter, which you said was your dad, but also just really taught you how to use all fields, which all great hitters do. So talk about your offensive game and how that's developing.
Yeah, man. I mean, kind of just for me, it was, I guess, the easiest way to kind of find all fields was, I mean, funny enough, I started hitting when I was a little kid. I mean, just like every other little kid, I wasn't taught the whole step in the bucket thing. It was try to step straight, and I always ended up crossing myself over. So I basically hit every ball to left field.
Oh, really?
Growing up. Yeah, funny enough, I
Huh.
hit about 90% of the balls I hit were to left field. So
Wow.
um, as soon as I made a small adjustment growing up, and they kind of turned me into a more open stance, it was okay. Well, now I can hit the ball to right field with it, and at that point, I had developed enough of like a feel towards hitting the ball the other way that it kind of just stuck that way. But yeah, I mean, in general, just offensive game, I think, is coming along a lot. I got through a lot of growing pains. Obviously, the first month of Great Lakes was not great, just in terms of me getting used to pitching and
Sure.
kind of seeing at that caliber of arm basically every day. But as soon as, I mean, for me, it was, I kind of got hot the next couple months after that. And I mean, it kind of just started rolling at that point. I made some small adjustments during the season to kind of shorten my swing up, especially left-handed. And that was huge for me, just from a standpoint of it gave me more room, and it, made the movements more explosive in general. So, I wasn't getting beat up in the zone as much. I wasn't getting beat, I wasn't chasing back foot as much because I was worried about, getting beat inside as much. And it kind of just, I mean, that opened up a world of opportunities for me hitting wise there. I mean, I've always been a pretty patient hitter overall. So that kind of just played into its own. And I think, obviously still got a ton of work to do. I mean, in terms of, there's always improvements to make there. I want to continue to kind of work on perfecting the movements there.
Sure.
Continue to work on, bat path. And for me, it's, continuing to just be more explosive on each side. I mean, obviously everybody wants me to hit for a little bit more power than I have, but I think for me, just a little bit more, like consistency from both sides will be huge.
And what I hear out of you there, you've always been a guy who has always really, really, really put the ball in play very, very well, actually at an elite level. So Now you get into the pro level, you're playing a position that demands power. Is that kind of a conflict to you? No, just kind of knowing that you've always been a guy that's made a lot of contact throughout your years, but if you hit for a little bit more power, sometimes you swing and miss more. Is that a conflict for you?
No, I don't think that's a conflict, honestly, just from the standpoint of, I'm not going to make like crazy adjustments or
Sure.
anything like that cause me to swing and miss a ton. I mean, even I would admit that, I could afford to swing and miss a little more and be just fine. I think I'm not going to say obviously a ton or anything like that,
Sure.
but I mean, I think naturally I'm not going to try and, probably won't swing and miss as much as a ton of people would, but that's also like my game isn't hitting a ton of like isn't being a home run hitter in general, but just I guess tapping into a little bit more of what's there is kind of the key for me, like finding a way to do that.
Excellent. Defensively, you're a guy who, and it's always interesting for me. The transition obviously is huge offensively. You're starting to face guys that are 95 to 97. They have video of you of where the holes are at in your swings, and they have guys that can actually hit those holes consistently. So you're constantly having to make offensive adjustments. But defensively, I'm assuming in college that your coaches called the pitches for you. And then you get into professional ball, and that has to be a big adjustment, learning how to call a game with a whole bunch of different guys. And then I know you're very good at blocking balls. You have a very quick release. So you're really developing a good defensive game. Talk about the defensive transition for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a whirlwind defensively. I'm still obviously learning how to play the catcher position in general. I mean, for me, yes, the pitches were called for me in college, so I was lucky that I had a few games at least under my belt of calling my own pitches. I mean, the couple games I caught in the Cape was that way. Most of summer ball was, so I kind of had I'm not going to say a great idea of it, but I knew kind of what it was like. I mean, it was definitely an experience and learned, and I grew as a pitch caller kind of as I went. I got lucky that I had two really good pitching coaches in Great Lakes with me that kind of helped guide me along through that basically, and kind of just went up and down as we're there for me as kind of I went through the growing pains of learning how to be a pitch caller. I mean, I think at that point, kind of once I started figuring out the pitch calling a little bit more, it kind of helped settle me down a little bit behind the plate.
Sure.
Turned It made the receiving just that much better, made the throwing a little better, the blocking a little better, just movement in general, just a little more relaxed back there. I think for me, it's continuing to build arm strength and continuing to work on accuracy and footwork and everything like that, and kind of get a consistent base on that. And then I think refining the receiving and everything like that is going to be huge too going into this. I had a couple games here and there where it wasn't as good as it probably needs to be at the major league level and be an above average catcher at the major league level. So I think continuing to kind of just refine and make sure that those games aren't there is going to be huge.
You mentioned a minute ago that you've played more games this year than you ever have. Then you had your instructs, and then you had the Arizona Fall League, and I know you caught a lot of bullpens there. You played quite a bit there. So this part of the year, I'm assuming, is get your body back right, get a lot of rest and relaxation, make sure that everything's still intact and works the way it should. But beyond that part of it, what is an off-season routine for Carson Taylor?
I mean, for me, it was after I got done with the fall league, the first 2 weeks back were basically I'm not touching a baseball. I'm not going to touch base. Not going to think about the sport of baseball. I'm going to decompress, let that let everything kind of go. Kind of just enjoy being around my family, everything like that. And then I've actually, I moved up to Nashville, so I'm living up in Nashville right now, and I've just started kind of getting back into the baseball side of things. I've been working for a couple of weeks now, but just progressively kind of build myself back up. Basically, will be the deal. I'm hitting again and throwing again, and we're starting to, I've been doing catching stuff and all that kind of mixed in with the workouts. But for me, it'll be progressive build up, and then hopefully by whenever they need me out there for spring training or whenever spring training actually happens, I'll be firing on all cylinders basically.
You have a really cool message because, as we said earlier, your goal from basically the time that you could remember was to be a major leaguer, and you are so close to realizing that goal. So, if you're a kid out there that's picking up a ball and, maybe in T-ball for the first time or wherever you might be playing, and your goal, like Carson Taylor, when you pick that ball up, is, hey, I want to be in the major leagues, and I want, that's my goal. What do you tell those kids?
I mean, so to those kids, one, there's no dream too big. Two, I think the best way to make yourself good at what you want to be good at is to enjoy the process, enjoy the work, enjoy the ups and downs that come with the game. Don't take yourself too seriously while you do it. And then just, I mean, go attack every day, like attack it and try to get out what you want to get out of it. I was raised on, you earn, you basically you get what you earn. So if you're willing to put in the work and you enjoy what you're doing while you're doing it, good things come from it.
And I love to ask that question because I love for kids to see, there's no magic wand to this. It is, you got to go to the
No,
grind
there's
every day. Yeah. So, hey, Carson, you have a huge fan at Dodger Poke Report, and I want to thank you so much for giving me so much of your time and allowing the Dodgers fans to get to know you a little bit better. And I am so rooting for you to reach the dreams that you've always had in your life. And I have absolutely no doubt about it that you will do that. And you are very close to that. So thank you so much for coming in to Dodger Poke Report.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me.